Mauricio Ruffy's spectacular knockout at UFC 313. A star is born. Ladies and gentlemen, UFC 313 delivered some of the most electrifying moments of the year, but one knockout stood out above the rest. Mauricio Ruffy's jaw-dropping finish that left fans on their feet. A rising star in the making, Ruffy made a massive statement with his stunning victory. But how did it happen? What makes him such a dangerous fighter? And what's next for this explosive prospect? Let's break it all down. Before UFC 313, Mauricio Ruffy wasn't a household name, but hardcore MMA fans knew he was a serious prospect. Young, explosive, and undefeated in the UFC, Ruffy had been tearing through opponents with a blend of power, precision, and calculated aggression. Going into the fight, many saw this as his toughest test yet, a true make-or-break moment in his career. His opponent, a well-rounded veteran, was expected to give him trouble. But Ruffy didn't just pass the test, he aced it with flying colors. From the opening bell, Ruffy looked calm, confident, and in control. He established his range early, using feints and footwork to keep his opponent guessing. He mixed in powerful leg kicks, slowing his opponent down. His speed and movement made him extremely difficult to hit. Even in the early exchanges, it was clear Ruffy was dictating the pace and setting up something big. Then, in the second round, it happened. Ruffy faked a low kick, drawing his opponent's hands down. With lightning-fast reflexes, he launched a perfectly timed right cross, followed immediately by a devastating left hook. His opponent collapsed instantly, unconscious before he even hit the canvas. The crowd exploded. The referee rushed in, waving off the fight immediately. Just like that, Mauricio Ruffy had announced himself to the world. This wasn't just a knockout, it was a masterclass in striking IQ and precision. 1. Perfect timing. Ruffy set a trap, baiting his opponent into a false sense of security. 2. Speed and power. The combination landed so fast, his opponent had no chance to react. 3. Accuracy. The punch landed flush on the chin, shutting off the lights immediately. This wasn't luck. This was years of training, precision, and natural instinct coming together at the perfect moment. The MMA world immediately took notice. Dana White's reaction. That was one of the most beautiful knockouts I've ever seen. This kid is for real. Fans flooded social media, calling it one of the best finishes of the year. Fighters in his division started paying attention, because Mauricio Ruffy just became a real problem. With one knockout, Ruffy went from a rising prospect to a legitimate contender. Now, the big question, who's next? 1. A fight against a top 15 opponent. After this performance, he deserves a ranked opponent. Names like Edson Barboza, Bryce Mitchell, or Dan Ige could be exciting matchups. 2. A quick turnaround for another fight. If he stays healthy, he could fight again within a few months. The UFC loves keeping rising stars active to build their momentum. 3. Could he be a future title contender? If he keeps improving, he might be 1 or 2 fights away from a top 10 opponent. His striking is elite, and if he sharpens his grappling, he could be championship material. One thing is certain, Mauricio Ruffy isn't just a prospect anymore. He's a serious threat in his division. UFC 313 gave us plenty of incredible moments, but Mauricio Ruffy stole the show. His knockout wasn't just spectacular, it was a statement. A message to the entire division that there's a new star rising. So what do you think? Is Ruffy a future champion? Who should he fight next? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fight breakdowns. This is Cage Combat TV, and I'll see you in the next one. Just days after Magomed Ankalaev's dominant win over Alex Pereira at UFC 313, Dana White has already hinted at a potential rematch. Could we see Ankalaev versus Pereira sooner than expected? Did the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship fight deserve a do-over? And how would a rematch play out? Let's break it all down in detail. At the post-fight press conference, Dana White was asked if he'd consider a rematch between Ankalaev and Pereira. His response was simple yet powerful. Absolutely. A single word from White was enough to set the MMA world on fire. Fans immediately started speculating about a rematch, questioning if Pereira deserved another shot so soon. But why is the UFC president so interested in running it back? Let's dive into the possible reasons. 1. Alex Pereira is a huge star. Pereira has built a massive fan base with his knockout power and aggressive fighting style. He brings excitement, and the UFC knows he's a pay-per-view machine. Even with the loss, he remains one of the most feared strikers in MMA. A rematch could generate huge revenue, especially if Pereira makes adjustments and promises to bring the fight in the second bout. 2. Ankalaev's dominance, but not excitement. Ankalaev fought a smart and calculated fight, using his grappling to neutralize Pereira. While his win was clear, many fans didn't find it as thrilling as Pereira's usual wars. The UFC often prefers action-packed fights over dominant, but strategic performances. Let's be real, Dana White loves exciting fights. If he thinks a rematch would deliver more action, he'll make it happen. 3. Lack of clear contenders at light heavyweight. Jiří Procházka and Jamal Hill are waiting in line, but neither has a better case than Pereira. Jan Blachowicz already fought Ankalaev to a draw, and their rematch wouldn't generate as much hype. Pereira remains the most marketable option for the next title fight. So, the UFC has a choice. Give Pereira an immediate shot, or let him fight his way back up. But what do the fighters think? Magomed Ankalaev's response. He kept running away from me. If we fight again, I hope he actually fights. Ankalaev was frustrated with Pereira's lack of engagement. He believes he clearly won and doesn't think a rematch is necessary. However, as the new champion, he'll accept whatever fight the UFC gives him. Alex Pereira's response. I'm not making excuses, but I know I can do better. If the UFC wants it, I'm ready. Pereira acknowledged his loss, but didn't give a clear call-out for a rematch. He might prefer a warm-up fight before challenging for the belt again. But if the UFC offers the title fight, it's hard to see him turning it down. With both fighters willing but not demanding a rematch, the decision falls on the UFC. And if Dana White wants it, history tells us it will happen. Let's be honest, Pereira was outmatched in their first fight. Ankalaev neutralized Pereira's striking with his wrestling and clinch game. Pereira had one good round, but was otherwise controlled. The fight was not controversial. Ankalaev won fair and square. So, why give Pereira another shot so soon? The answer lies in how the rematch might play out. 1. Pereira would be more aggressive. In their first fight, he was too cautious, possibly fearing the takedowns. If he goes all in with his striking, he has a better chance at a knockout. His best shot is to end the fight early before Ankalaev establishes control. Pereira has the power to put anyone to sleep. If he lands clean, Ankalaev is in trouble. 2. Ankalaev would be even more confident. Now that he's beaten Pereira once, Ankalaev knows he can control him. He might push for an even earlier takedown, keeping the fight on the mat from the start. If Pereira hasn't improved his takedown defense, the rematch could be an even easier win for Ankalaev. The rematch might not be much different unless Pereira makes major adjustments. But does he have time to do that? If Pereira doesn't get an immediate rematch, here are some possible fights for him. 1. Pereira vs. Jiří Procházka. A rematch between two of the most dangerous strikers at 205. If Pereira wins, he gets another shot at Ankalaev. 2. Pereira vs. Jamal Hill. A battle between two former champions. Hill was the champion before his injury. This could be a title eliminator. 3. Pereira moves back to middleweight. He could return to 185 for a fight against Dricus du Plessis or a trilogy with Israel Adesanya. If Pereira really wants a rematch, winning one more fight at 205 would make him undeniable. If Dana White makes it official, when would Ankalaev vs. Pereira 2 happen? UFC 320, late 2025, a blockbuster PPV event, possibly in Brazil or Abu Dhabi. UFC International Fight Week 2025, one of the biggest annual UFC cards. New York's Madison Square Garden, UFC 325. The UFC loves hosting massive rematches at MSG. No matter where it happens, it would be one of the biggest fights of the year. Likelihood of immediate rematch, 70%. Likelihood of Pereira fighting once before a rematch, 30%. With Dana White's absolutely statement, it's very likely we see Ankalaev vs. Pereira 2 in late 2025. But the big question remains. Can Pereira actually beat Ankalaev in a rematch? If Pereira doesn't improve his takedown defense, the result might be the same. But if he lands his legendary left hook, he could reclaim his throne. Dana White has spoken, and when he hints at a rematch, history shows it usually happens. But does Pereira deserve another shot? Or should he prove himself first? And if they do fight again, will he make the right adjustments? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fight analysis.